the United States is planning to block Burkina people from entering their country. But Captain Ibrahim Traoré didn't waste time. He sent back a loud and clear message to the U.S. No entry? No minerals. In this video, you will see how one African leader stood up to the biggest power in the world and shocked them. As we go into it, don't forget to subscribe. Something strange started happening behind closed doors in Washington, D.C. Reports began to leak that the U.S. government was working on a new immigration ban, and this time, they were targeting Burkina Faso. Yes, a small but rising country in West Africa. At first, people didn't take it seriously. Why would America focus on Burkina Faso? What had the Burkina people done? But it soon became clear, this was not a mistake. It was a plan. The US was preparing to place Burkina Faso on a list of restricted countries. That meant no more travel visas. No more business access. And Burkinabé citizens would not be allowed to enter the United States anymore. It was quiet. It wasn't in the news. But deep inside the American system, things were moving fast. They were preparing to lock the doors. Now let's ask the big question. Why? Why Burkina Faso? The answer is simple, but powerful. Burkina Faso is no longer behaving the way the West wants. Since Captain Ibrahim Traoré became president, the country has started to stand up for itself. He kicked out French soldiers. He shut down Western military bases. He stopped accepting foreign aid that came with bad conditions. And more importantly, he took back control of the country's natural resources. Gold, uranium, manganese, lithium. These are not just rocks. These are the keys to modern power. And for decades, foreign countries have been taking them for cheap, sometimes for free. Traoré said, no more. He told mining companies to pack up and renegotiate their contracts. He started handing over control of mines to the Burkina people. He said Africa must benefit first from what comes from its own soil. And that was when the problems started. The West was not happy. Especially the US, which depends on African minerals for batteries, missiles, and clean energy. They were used to quiet, obedient leaders. Leaders who said yes sir and did whatever the West wanted. But Traoré? He was different. He spoke like Thomas Sankara. He acted like a lion. He refused to bow. So what did they do? They couldn't send soldiers, not openly. They couldn't control him with money because he rejected their loans. So they chose policy warfare. They decided to punish the people of Burkina Faso by shutting them out of America. Think about it. Students, workers, business people, all of them were about to be banned just because their president refused to be controlled. That is not democracy. That is not respect. That is punishment. Let's break it down even more. The US government has a tool called the travel ban list or visa restriction list. They use it to block people from entering the country when they say there's a security risk or unstable government. But most of the time, the real reason is political. It's used to put pressure on countries they can't control. In the past, they did this to Iran, Syria, and Sudan. Now they wanted to do it to Burkina Faso. Why? Because Traoré kicked out their friends. Because he refused to be weak. Because he demanded fairness. And here's the part that hurts the most. The average Burkinabé did nothing wrong. People with dreams of going to school in America. Young people who just wanted to see the world. Families that had relatives living abroad. All of them would suffer just because of one powerful country's pride. They wanted to make Traoré look like a villain. They wanted the people of Burkina Faso to rise up and say, "Look what you've done to us, now we can't even travel." But what they forgot is this: Traoré is not just a soldier. He is a teacher too. He has spent the last 2 years waking up his people. He told them, the West is not your future. Africa is your future. He told them, "Your value is not in begging, your value is in what lies under your feet." He reminded them that freedom comes with a price. So when news of the US plan leaked out, the reaction in Burkina Faso was not fear. It was anger. And it was pride. They were not going to cry for a visa. They were going to fight for their dignity. By the time this plan became public, the US was too late. Traoré already had his answer ready. He didn't wait for an official letter. He didn't call a press conference. He just sent a message that made the whole world stop and look. A message so simple, but so powerful, it would shake the ground under America's feet. No entry? No minerals. And just like that, the game changed. The punishment turned into a trap. And the hunter had become the hunted. When the news reached Ouagadougou, Ibrahim Traoré didn't panic. He didn't call for help. He didn't complain. Instead, he took a deep breath and sent a message that was short, sharp, and unforgettable. No entry? No minerals. That was it. 6 words. And just like that, the entire game changed. Traoré knew exactly what was going on. He knew the US was trying to send a message by banning Burkina people. He knew it was meant to weaken his government. He knew they wanted to create fear and confusion among the people. But he also knew something more important. Burkina Faso has something the West cannot live without: its minerals. Gold. Uranium. Manganese. Rare earths. And most of all, lithium, which is the future of batteries, energy, and electric cars. For many years, these minerals were taken quietly. Big foreign companies came in, made secret deals, gave a few coins to local elites, and shipped everything out. They left the land empty and the people poor. But Traoré had ended that game. Since taking power, he had ordered a full review of all mining contracts. He had told companies, "You will not keep stealing from us while our people remain hungry." He had already paused several foreign mining operations. He had demanded that Burkinabé citizens must benefit first before anything is exported. So when the US threatened to block his people, he blocked something far more valuable: their access to Africa's wealth. The US thought they had the upper hand. But Traoré showed them. Power is not just in weapons. Power is in control of resources. He ordered his ministers to immediately begin audits on American-linked mining companies. If they were not playing fair, they were told to leave. If they were hoarding wealth, they were told to open their books. And just like that, pressure began to build. Western companies that had been making quiet profits suddenly felt the heat. Stocks dropped. Contracts were frozen. Investors started asking questions. Because what Traoré said wasn't just talk, it was policy. He told the people of Burkina Faso, "We don't need to beg for respect. We demand it. If you say our people cannot enter your country, then your machines will not dig our soil." This was not emotional. This was not revenge. This was balance. And then something even bigger started to happen. Other African countries began to watch closely. Mali, who is already part of the alliance with Burkina Faso, stood by his side. Niger, also under military leadership, nodded in agreement. They said, "We must control our own resources. The era of exploitation is over." And beyond the Sahel, people were watching too. Young Africans in Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and Congo started sharing the quote. No entry? No minerals. It began trending online. It was printed on t-shirts. It was spoken in classrooms and on the streets. Traoré had not just answered America. He had sparked a new way of thinking. Let's be honest. In the past, African leaders would have begged. They would have sent diplomats to ask the US to remove the ban. They would have promised to behave. They would have sacrificed their people just to stay on the good list. But not this time. Traoré stood tall. Not with arrogance, but with pride. He didn't cry. He didn't kneel. He didn't beg for visas. Instead, he said, "We are not dying to go to America. We are fighting to build Africa." This was not a war of guns. This was a war of dignity. And Traoré had just won the first battle. Behind the scenes, Western diplomats began to panic. What if other African countries followed this idea? What if mineral-rich nations started blocking access too? What if the dream of cheap African resources was slipping away? Because here's the truth. Africa is not poor. Africa has been robbed. And for the first time in decades, someone was locking the door. Traoré had flipped the power switch. He was no longer chasing approval. He was setting the rules. And his message was now echoing far beyond Burkina Faso. If you want our minerals, respect our people. If you want our gold, respect our dignity. In the eyes of some, Traoré had humiliated the United States. But in truth, he did something deeper. He reminded the world that Africa is not a tool. It is not a place to exploit. It is not a place where people are banned like animals and then expected to stay silent. Africa is waking up. And Ibrahim Traoré? He is ringing the alarm. What just happened in Burkina Faso is bigger than one country. It's bigger than visas. It's bigger than minerals. It's about Africa saying enough. For many years, Africa was seen as a place that follows orders. Follows rules made in Europe and America. Follows old systems that keep it weak and dependent. But something is shifting. And right now, the center of that shift is Ibrahim Traoré. Let's look at what just happened. America tried to ban Burkinabé citizens. It was supposed to be a warning. Behave, or we shut the door on you. But instead of begging for the door to be opened, Traoré slammed another door shut. The door to Africa's wealth. No entry? No minerals. That sentence has become more than a clapback. It's now a statement of African pride. A new kind of leadership? Traoré didn't shout. He didn't insult. He just said the truth, calmly, clearly, and with courage. And the truth is this: you cannot take from Africa and disrespect its people at the same time. That truth is now spreading. Across the continent, young people are waking up. They are asking questions their parents were too afraid to ask. They are saying, why do foreign companies control our gold? Why do we export oil, but can't afford petrol? Why are our leaders silent when our people are disrespected abroad? These are the questions of a new generation. And Traoré is giving them answers, not just in words, but in action. He has made it clear. Africa's future will not be built in Paris or Washington. It will be built right here, on African soil. When Traoré responded to the US travel ban, it wasn't just a political move. It was a lesson in power, the kind of power that doesn't need begging, doesn't need loans, and doesn't need permission. And that's what shook the world. For decades, African leaders believed they had to keep quiet to survive. They believed they needed help from the West to grow. They thought they had no choice. But Traoré came and changed the formula. He looked the West in the face and said, "You need us more than we need you." And for once, the world didn't know how to respond. Some said he was too young, too bold, too dangerous. But young Africans said something else. He's one of us. He talks like us. He dreams like us. He's not thinking about private jets or foreign bank accounts. He's thinking about roads, schools, food, jobs, and justice. And that's why the youth are listening. They are not just watching him, they're learning from him. They're studying his speeches. They're printing his quotes. They're planning their future, not in fear, but in freedom. And what about other African leaders? Many are watching quietly. Some are inspired. Some are scared. Some are stuck between old loyalty and new reality. Because Traoré has exposed something. You don't need to be controlled. You don't need to trade dignity for aid. You can say no and still survive. In fact, you can say no and thrive. Burkina Faso, despite sanctions and pressure, is still standing. It is building schools. It is training soldiers. It is growing food. It is finding new partners in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And all this while saying no to the biggest powers in the world. That's leadership. That's courage. That's real independence. And let's not forget, this is not just about rejecting the West. Traoré is not against the world. He's just for Africa. He has said it clearly. We will work with anyone who respects us. But we will bow to no one. That's a message of balance. A message of mutual respect. Africa is open to friendship, not control. To trade, not theft. To peace, not pressure. This is what Traoré is teaching the continent. Now, the big question is, what comes next? Will the US continue with its plan to block Burkinabé citizens? Maybe. But now they know there's a cost. No more free minerals. No more silent partnerships. No more one-sided deals. And if other African countries follow Traoré's path, then this is not the end of a story. It's the beginning of a movement. So what does this all mean for you watching this video? It means the time of silent Africa is over. It means the time of rising Africa has begun. And whether you're in Ouagadougou or Nairobi, Lagos or Lusaka, Accra or Addis Ababa, the question is the same. Will you keep waiting? Or will you stand like Traoré? Because leadership is not about titles. It's about truth. It's about standing up, even when the world tells you to sit down. And that's exactly what Ibrahim Traoré has done.